Your Excellency, President Vella, Honorable Minister Caruana, Your Grace Archbishop Shikluna, Chancellor, Rector, Prorectors, members of the academic body, honorary graduates, distinguished guests. On behalf of the University of Malta, I welcome you to this ceremony to confer honorary degrees on 6 distinguished personages. Ms. Angela Kallus, Sister John Garner, Monsignor Victor Grech, Reverend Dionysius Mintov, Professor Gianrico Farrugia, and His Eminence Cardinal Mario Grech. I now invite Professor Maureen Cole to deliver an oration in honor of Ms. Angela Kallus and Sister Joan Garner.
Your Excellency, President of the Republic, Your Grace, the Archbishop of Malta, Chancellor, Prorectors, colleagues, honorary graduates, and distinguished guests. Today we are here to honor 2 women of courage. Cousins and Posner described the notion of courage for Socrates and Aristotle to be the disposition that gives one the capacity to face danger without being overcome by fear. It's the capacity to persist under highly adverse circumstances. It's not being fearless so much as being able to control one's fear. Ms. Angela Kallus and Sister Joan Garner embody such courage. They were both pioneering in their fields, both trailblazers who cared enough to make personal sacrifices to ensure that women's lives could be improved. Their caring came from the heart. It was their deep caring that inspired and motivated them. Interestingly, the word courage and heart share the same Latin origin, cor, meaning heart. This also holds for the Maltese language, with Alp and Albina sharing the same roots. Let me talk a bit about each of them. Ms. Angela Kallus was born in 1945 in Safi. She holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in English, Italian, and Latin, and a diploma in journalism from the University of Malta. She also holds other diplomas from the universities of Siena and Perugia, and from the University of Sarajevo. She was a fellow of the Salzburg Seminar. Ms. Angela Kallus was an educator, both as a teacher and as a school administrator. Above all, she is a women's rights activist. In the mid-1970s, she turned her focus to the status of Maltese women in society. The notion of equal rights for women was not currency at the time, and women faced discrimination in many aspects of their lives. Ms. Angela Kallus was active in the political sphere and was instrumental in ensuring that women's rights and their advancement be part of the Nationalist Party's electoral platforms in 1981 and in 1987. From the late 1980s, she played a central role in the implementation of these programs through the setting up of the Secretariat for the Equal Status of Women and the Commission for the Advancement of Women. Together with the other members of the Commission for the Advancement of Women, she worked tirelessly to raise awareness about Maltese women's rights. In 1991, Ms. Angela Kallus had the satisfaction to see the Constitution of Malta amended in order to include equality as a fundamental human right and the banning of all discrimination against women. In 1995, she was appointed the first director of the former Department for the Equal Status of Women. Between 1988 and 1996, Angela Kallus held the post of permanent Maltese expert on the Committee of the Council of Europe for equality between women and men. She represented Malta at several international fora and served on a number of national boards and committees. Ms. Angela Kallus's work and her contribution were recognized and honored when she was invested with the Medaglia al-Adita Repubblica on the 13th December 1993. I will now turn to Sister Joan Garner. Sister Joan Garner was born in Malta in 1943. She joined the Good Shepherd Sisters in 1964 and has worked in the apostolate of the Good Shepherd Sisters since then. Her calling took her to Lecce, Rome, Messina, Ireland, and Malta. She has lived the charisma of the order to the full through her ministering to women, especially those in economic, family, or moral difficulties. The Sisters of the Good Shepherd had been working with girls and women in difficulty ever since the congregation came to Malta in 1858. It was in 1980 that they opened Dar Merbabik, still open today, the first shelter for women survivors of domestic violence and their children in Malta. This at the time when the very existence of domestic violence was vehemently denied by most and certainly not acknowledged as a social problem. Sister Joan Garner headed the shelter almost single-handedly for almost 20 years, supporting women and children while shielding them from the wrath of violent partners. When she stepped down from her leadership role, she continued to support women survivors, accompanying them to court and also provided aftercare to the women and children who had left Dar Merbabik. Doubtless to say, her work saved many women's lives. Despite risks to her own safety, she courageously faced the many challenges in order to support and protect the women and children she worked with. She was appointed a member of the Commission on Domestic Violence when it was first set up in 2006 and served until 2013. Here, she also played a key role, contributing with her knowledge and vast experience. Sister Joan Garner also served on the subcommittee responsible for awareness raising and prevention. She was always prompt to offer practical help whenever this was needed. During recent years, she has continued to support women who are going through the process of marital separation. It is a privilege and honor for the University of Malta to be conferring you both with the degree of Master of Letters honoris causa. May your shining example continue to be our inspiration as we continue to work for a more just society.
Conferment of the degree of Master of Letters honoris causa on Miss Angela Kallus. Resolution of the Senate and the Council. Whereas the University recognizes the significant contribution made by Angela Kallus in her commitment towards women's rights and championing social equity, through her vigor, has promoted for and improved women's rights, their social well-being and positioning in our country. Through her varied roles, has spent her energies in advancing public education, social awareness, and community building, and a person who has incomparable qualities of mind and character, of resounding farsightedness and persistence. The university acclaims her a meritorious candidate for the degree of Master of Letters honoris causa of this alma mater. Now therefore, by virtue of the powers vested in us by the law and statutes governing this university, the said distinction of Master of Letters honoris causa is being conferred on Angela Kallus on this 19th day of November of the year of our Lord 2021. Preclarissima candidata, placuit autoritatibus universitati moderande, prefectis dinium te declarare, che laurea insignibus decoreris. Sponsor, Professor Andrew Azzopardi.
Tuum in conspectum magnifice rector, aducimus hunc lectissimo candidatum omnibus laurea insignibus, more institutoque maiorem a te honestandum qui, a conciliaris et senatoribus huius universitatis dignissimis presentatus, temox rogabit ut, tibi attribuita potestate, eum magisterium literarium honoris causa reunites atque in Esmondi, censu coptatum adscriptumque nomines atque edicas.
Ut itaque Deus, exoratus, vertat bene, nobis attributa autoritate, te magistrorum litterarum honoris causa, eo iure censeri, et esse co optimo sunt creati ali, dicimus et pronunciamus, tibique omnibus honoribus, cum laurea conjunctis, fruendi et utendi, facultatem facimus. Cape iam collate tibi dignitatis ornamenta, et quid illa instituto maiorum portentat intellegge. Gesta sic togam anc, ut norint omnes te in magistram collegium allectam esse. Sit tibi liberalis pilleus hic vellutior laureum ornamentum, quod donavantur post certamen victores. Cum vero te de dignitate adepta in totius academici coetus nomine gratulemur, testetur tibi hic nosteram plexus.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Malta, Your Grace the Archbishop, Honorable Minister, Chancellor, Rector, Pro-Rectors, Professor Maureen Cole, Dr. Anna Borch, and Professor Maria Attard, the academic body, distinguished guests. Good afternoon, or rather, good evening now. I'm deeply grateful for the honor that the University of Malta has bestowed upon me today. I feel privileged that my activism and work concerning equality between women and men in Malta has been recognized by such a high institution. It is true that I had worked hard at the political level to ensure that equality for women be put on the national agenda, and also that the national entities for equality be established. No great progress, however, would have been accomplished over just a few years, more or less between 1988 and 2000, without the great input of the first group of members, both women and men, of the Commission for the Advancement of Women within the Ministry for Social Policy. The Commission's remit was to remove discrimination against Maltese women, to strengthen equality both legally and in practice, and to enhance women's advancement in the different areas of Maltese society. Ably led by Bernadette Borda, my fellow members of the Commission worked with great enthusiasm and dedication to attain the set goals in the shortest time possibly. One group worked on the legal aspect, namely on changes to the Constitution of Malta and on those of the provisions of the Civil Code, popularly referred to as the family law. Another group worked on identifying the range of problems affecting women in the different areas of society and drawing up plans to address them. Concurrently, the Commission embarked on the more difficult task of changing cultural attitudes, perceptions, and practices. Our strategy was to raise public awareness about the need for equality and at the same time reaching out to all sectors of society and the different stakeholders. Thus, Malta's main institutions, entities, and constituted bodies were identified and approached with the aim of working hand in hand with them in order to provide women with equal opportunities. We liaise not only with women's organizations, but also with the different government ministers, with top officials in the public service, particularly those in the education, employment, and health sectors, with trade unions, employers' associations, political parties, the church authorities, religious organizations, even the University of Malta, the police, and the different media, especially regarding the portrayal of women in broadcasting, advertising, and books. Focal points on gender equality were appointed in the different public service departments and other entities, including the University of Malta. Specific training sessions for these focal points were organized on a regular basis. In order to raise public awareness about equality, the Commission prepared, published, and disseminated papers and reports on the situation of Maltese women, organized seminars, conferences, workshops, and series of radio programs. We members frequently addressed women in parishes and students in secondary schools. We participated in the in-service training of guidance teachers and those of religion and social studies. We also took part in innumerable radio and television programs and debates. Apart from the issues of equality of spouses in the family, the Commission tackled those of equal opportunities in education, training, and employment, as well as women's health, women in decision-making, the integration of work responsibilities with those of family obligations, the introduction of family-friendly measures, sexual harassment, and the violence suffered by women, particularly in the family. In those first years, we established strong links with the University of Malta through collaboration with some faculties or centers. For instance, the Faculty of Education participated actively in the organization of 2 national conferences, one on the role of education in the promotion of equality, and another on the technical education and training of women. The Center for Labor Studies, formerly the Workers' Participation Development Center, compiled reports on the situation of Maltese female employees and their employment. And in 1994, the center was entrusted by the Ministry for Social Policy with the introduction of a diploma course on gender and development. I am honored that as a result of so much hard work over a span of a decade, Maltese women made great strides forward in all areas of our society. More women began seeking further training and education, even at the tertiary level, joining the workforce, taking up non-traditional jobs, and participating more actively in public life, particularly in politics at both the local and national levels. Even the University of Malta has been part of these changes and now reflects the positive achievements. By the mid-90s, the number of women students had already surpassed that of men. Nowadays, we have also grown used to seeing several women in the different higher positions, for instance, as pro-rectors, president of the council of the university, heads of faculties, departments, and centers. On the other hand, I am fully aware also that a lot still needs to be done by our society in order to ensure that all women can enjoy equal rights and opportunities to the full. Unfortunately, there are women who are still treated as chattels or are victims of violence. I am, however, quite an optimistic person, and I strongly believe that with more women in decision-making, particularly in politics, we can have a more just society and thus an improvement in the quality of life of both women and men. In conclusion, I would like to thank Dr. Anna Borch, former director of the Center for Labor Studies, who in 2019 had already submitted my nomination for the honoris causa, and those academics who supported it, as well as Professor Maria Tard, who endorsed the proposal. Finally, I again thank the University of Malta for the honor conferred upon me today. Thank you.
Conferment of the degree of Master of Letters, honoris causa, on Sister Joan Garner. Resolution of the Senate and the Council. Whereas the University recognizes the significant contribution made by Joan Garner as a strong and fearless defender of women survivors of violence and their children, for her pioneering work in bringing the issue of violence against women to public attention locally, and as a significant role model and mentor to academics and activists in the field. This university acclaims her a meritorious candidate for the degree of Master of Letters, honoris causa, of this alma mater. Now therefore, by virtue of the powers vested in us by the law and the statutes governing this university, the said distinction of Master of Letters honoris causa is being conferred on Joan Garner on this 19th day of November of the year of our Lord 2021. Precarissima candidata, placuit autoritatibus universitati moderandi, prefectis diem te declarare quel laurea insignibus decoreris. Sponsor, Professor Andrew Azzopardi.
Tuum in conspectum magnifice rector ad ducimus hunc lectissimo candidatam, omnibus laurea insignibus, more istitutoque maiorem a te honestandem, qua, a consiliaris et senatoribus huius universitatis dignissimis presentate, te mox rogabit ut, tibi attribuita potestate erm magisterium literarium honoris causa, reunintes atque in esmodi, censu coptatum adscriptumque, nomines atque edicas.
Ut itaque Deus exoratus vertat bene nobis attributa autoritate, te magistrorum litterarum honoris causa, ea iure censeri, et esso quo optimo sunt creati ali, edicimus et pronunciamus, tibique omnibus honoribus, cum laurea conjunctis, fruendi et utendi facultatem facimus. Cape iam collate tibi dignitatis ornamenta, et quid illa instituto maiorum portendat intellegge. Gesta sic toga manc ut norint omnes te in magistram collegium allectum esse. Sit tibi liberalis pilleus ic velluti laureum ornamentum quod donabantur post certamen victores. Cum vero te de dignitate adepta in totius academici coetus nomine gratulemur, testetur tibi ic nostram plexus.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Malta, and Mrs. Vella, the Honorary Chancellor and Rector of the University, member of the academic body, distinguished guests and friends. I feel very honored to be here today, and I thank the University Senate and University Council for confirming me with the degree of Masters of Letters, honoris causa. I would also like to thank the sisters of my community, and I would like to share this honor with them, as each and every one of us is contributed according to our charism. We have all been formed to serve in the mission of the congregation, which normally includes 8 years of formation, before our sisters are sent to serve wherever they are needed. I have been in our apostolate in Rome, Lecce, Messina, and Malta. In 1978, I went to Ireland and worked in a night and day center. When I came back, I got to know that even in Malta, we have homeless people, and we thought that we are to give a helping hand. With this in mind, in 1980, we founded Dar Merhaba Bik. I feel very proud to have been the first to work there. In the beginning, we offered help to women and girls, together with their children, up to 3 years. But as it happened, that most of them were victims of domestic violence and single mothers, we thought that we should change the scope of Dar Merhaba Bik and to focus on women escaping domestic violence. I worked at Dar Merhaba Bik for 17 years, night and day. I was with the victims all the time. I would accompany them to court and Department of Housing and the hospital. I was present at the birth of numerous babies. When the women entered Dar Merhaba Bik, I normally liaised with social workers and called the case conference to plan the stay and the future. In some instances, family reunifications were possible, and I suggested this through meetings with the family. I frequently accompanied perpetrators to Alcoholics Anonymous meetings to help them address their alcohol problems. This provided a very positive learning experience for me. On my return from a sabbatical year in Ireland, I went back to work with women at Dar Merhaba Bik, frequently accompanying them for various appointments, including those at the law courts. This provided important support, as they were often fearful of meeting their perpetrators face to face. I continued to support a number of women when they moved out of Dar Merhaba Bik and set up home on their own. Now I am retired. I continue to support my sister who is in need of my care. I would like to reiterate my heartfelt gratitude to the University of Malta for honoring me today. Thank you. And I would even like to thank Mrs. Marilyn Camilleri for all the help she has given me to be here today. Thank you.
I now invite Professor Raymond Menjon to deliver an oration in honor of Monsignor Victor Grech and Reverend Dionysius Mintov.
Eccellenzi, Sinjuri distinti, kollegi u ħbieb. Illum qegħdin ninġabru mill-ġdid hawnhekk bħala korp akademiku u mhux akademiku, bħala membri u bħala rappreżentanti tal-Università ta' Malta. Issa 250 sena mir-rifondazzjoni tagħha fl-1769 f'ċerimonja speċjali jien ngħid unika fil-Knisja tal-Ġiżwiti moħtara liċ-ċirkonċiżjoni tal-Mulej fil-Belt Valletta. Qegħdin nixxierku u naqblu flimkien u għalenija biex niċċelebraw ġurnata mill-aqwa aktarx bla preċedent fil-ġrajiet imqalbin tal-għażiża tagħna l-Alma Mater. Illum se nassistu u qegħdin nipparteċipaw f'avveniment nazzjonali li jmur lil mill-maxġar tal-erf u mid-dwar tat-tagħlim li matulu se jsir il-konferiment tal-Gradd tal-Maġisteru fuq żewġ saċerdoti li għal-iktar minn 50 sena bl-iktar umirtà min-naħa tagħhom bl-ogħla distinzjoni għas-soċjetà tagħna u lil minna ħadmu fil-qasam soċjali u tal-volontarjat, tas-servizz lejn il-proxmu, lejn ħaddieħor inqas ix-xurtijat, lejn ħaddieħor iktar vulnerabbli. Qiegħed nirreferi għal Patri Dionysiu Mintov u għal Monsinjur Victor Grech. Nixtieqkom tippermettuli li nistqal li dlonk imtlejt b'invidja u fl-istess ħin biża' malli kont informat li s-Senat u l-Kunsill tal-Università ta' Malta kienu approvaw li jien nagħmel din l-orazzjoni li nqis bħala l-quċċata tal-karriera akkademika tiegħi. Mhux se rnexxieli nagħmel ġustizzja maż-żewġ personalitajiet ta' ħsibijiet u ta' emejjel ta' kobor li ma bħalhom 50 minuti. Madankollu ċert li l-ħidma tagħhom ta' iktar minn nofs seklu miżewda b'eżempji ta' ħniena u b'messaġġi ta' salvazzjoni magħrufa u rikonoxxuta minn kulħadd. Patri Mintov tal-Ordni tal-Franġiskani Minuri iddedika ħajtu biex jgħin lil bosta nies ta' kull età li jfittxu t-tama u l-imħabba minn barra li jażel li jkun tgħalliem damma twila ta' kitbiet l-iktar dawk letterali u ġurnalistiċi. Anzi, hu kiseb rekord fuq il-mezzi tax-xandir bħala kommentatur ġurnata wara l-oħra fuq temi ta' kull aspett tal-kważi 60 sena sħaħ. Kien il-pionier tal-istudji soċjali fl-iskejjer kollha ta' Malta, inkluża l-Università. Introduċa fis-sillabu l-edukazzjoni ċivika li il-United Nations Economic and Social Council isa mudell għal stati membri oħrajn sa mill-1975. Barra minn hekk kien il-fundatur tal-Franciscan International li kienu l-ewwel ordni reliġjuż li kienu osservatur fil-ġnus Magħquda. Waqqaf il-laboratorju tal-paċi Papa Ġwanni 23 f'Ħalfar bħala ċentru ta' edukazzjoni u istruzzjoni skont l-elim ta' żminijiet. Iżda li sfrutta bħala milqa biex biha jkun l-ewwel li joffra kennu faraġ għal mijiet ta' individwi li sfaw emarġinati u li kienu fil-bżonn billi sansitra ġew wiċċ imwiċċ mal-mewt. Partikolarment il-masses ta' migranti li bdew jaħarbu mill-komunitajiet tagħhom bit-taqlib u bil-movimenti ta' ġnus fil-kontinenti li jmissu jdawru l-Ewropa u bdew jaslu fostna f'dawn l-aħħar snin. Waqqaf ukoll fih dan il-laboratorju tal-paċi il-premju għat-tjubija Papa Ġwanni 23 li jifforma uffiċjalment parti integrali mill-kalendarju tal-President ta' Malta u li din is-sena se jkun ingħata għal 55 sena konsekuttivament. Patri Mintov għaraf qabel kulħadd li pajjiżna fil-ħawt tal-Mediterran kien se jkun fil-qalba ta' fenomenu li kien se jolqot lill-umanità fil-laħam il-ħaj permezz ta' traġetti ta' twerwir ta' persuni ta' kull don u din, ta' kull għamla u emil mill-ixfqa ta' kontinenti oħrajn min-naħa l-oħra tal-baħar tagħna li ħafna drabi kienu jintemmu fl-għajbien u fit-telfa ta' 20,000 ta' bnedmin. Patri Dionizju ma kienx qiegħed joħlom iżda ta' bilħaq qiegħed janteċipa discerniment straordinarju. Il-miġja tal-erek imsejħa tar-refuġjati. Meta hu ta' bidu għal ftuħ tal-kumpless li miegħu ismu jitwaħħad intimament. Patri Mintoff irċieva ġieħ ir-Repubblika mill-Istat Malti u l-Pro-Ekklesja et Pontificia mill-Papa Pawlu VI. Monsignor Grek kien għal bosta snin involut fit-tħejjija tas-seminaristi għas-saċerdozju u kien rettur tas-seminarju arċiveskovili ta' Malta u tebaħ u pubblika diversi kotba li kienu mfittxijin ħafna miż-żgħażagħ u għallem l-omeletika fil-Fakultà tat-Teoloġija fl-Università ta' Malta għal bosta snin. Don Viktor kien fundatur tal-Aġenzija Caritas bilan li tipprovdi servizzi soċjali, inklużi dawk preventivi u riabilitattivi għal nies fit-trufijiet tas-soċjetà, speċjalment dawk il-persuni u l-familji tagħhom bi problemi ta' droga, ta' alkohol, tal-użura, tal-lob tal-azzard u dipendenzi oħrajn. U kien il-punt ta' referenza għal bosta u bosta individwi li sabu ruħhom fit-tbatijiet ta' kull xorta. Barra minn hekk Don Viktor meqjus u magħdud bħala wieħed mill-kofundaturi tal-Caritas Ewropa li kellha lan li tiġġieled il-faqar u l-esklużjoni soċjali u li tippromuovi l-iżvilupp tal-integrità, tal-ġustizzja soċjali, kif ukoll tas-sistemi soċjali sostenibbli. Fil-waqt li kien membru tal-eżekuttiv tal-istess Unjoni jew netwerk ta' organizzazzjonijiet kif ukoll tal-Caritas Internazzjonalis. Monsignor Grek għażel il-motto tal-Caritas Malta minn kliem Ġesu innifsu. Dak li tagħmlu m'għaliex kemm wieħed fost ħowti tkunu qegħdin tagħmluh miegħi. San Mattew 25. Bla rib ta' xejn poġġa żerrija li kibret f'siġra kbira u għammiela u rċieva l-Premju ta' ċittadin tal-Ewropa mill-Parlament Ewropew fl-2012 u ngħata l-ġieħ uffiċjal tar-Repubblika għas-sema t-tiftiegħu fil-qasam soċjali u tal-karità. Monsignor Grek daħal fid-djar u fil-qlub tal-poplu Għażistana bħala xandar u leħen ewlieni u singolari li laqgħat ġenerazzjonijiet ta' Maltin u Għawċin u kien ixandar dwar problemi tal-familja permezz tar-Radio Live għal 3 kwarti sħaħ darba fil-ġimgħa għal 50 sena konsekuttivi u kellu numru ta' programmi televiżivi speċjalment dwar iż-żgħażagħ. Kellu wkoll subaj fuq il-post tan-nies li kienu jirrispondu billi jitkellmu miegħu direttament jew bis-saħħa ta' korrispondenza. L-altruiżmu m'għandux limiti, ma jitkalkulax, ma jikkwantifikax. Il-karità ma tinkwadra fl-ebda quid pro quo. Ma tafx kumpens fiha nnifisha ġġor it-tbatija u titlob ir-responsabbiltà. Is-saċerdoti Mintoff u Grek urew bil-fatti u bl-emejjel kif għandhom ikunu xempji awtentiċi u konkreti ta' Kristu skont il-missjoni kif infissra fl-Evanġelju. U ma naqxu isimhom fl-istorja ta' twelidna bitri ta' deb għal ġiet li żeraw u li ħasdu għal benefiċċju ta' kull min twieled jew sapruħu f'sitwazzjonijiet jew f'ċirkostanzi mwerin u sfortunati. Kemm Patri Mintoff kif ukoll Monsignor Grek twildu Bolmla. L-onorifiċenza li qegħdin jirċievu dawn iż-żewġ ċittadini formidabbli hija tislima xierqa awtorija ta' apprezzament mistħoq lejn belt marittima li tatna fost l-aħjar ħaddiema Maltin tat-Tarzna. Hija konferma tat trionf ta' ċittà kospikwa fost l-intelliġenzja ta' kull żmien. L-alma mater għażiża tagħna qiegħda f'din l-okkażjoni tisboq il-ħitan u l-perimetru tal-Atenew u taġixxi b'mod eċċellenti bloti ta' honoris causa lil żewġ personaġġi li ħadmu qatih favur saffi jew gruppi li kellhom il-ħtieġa li għall-inqas jingħataw għejxin diċenti u jkunu integrati fostna qalb kull wieħed u waħda minna. Għalhekk il-missjoni hija vokazzjoni aqwa minn kull professjoni. Grazzi ħafna.
Conferment of the degree of Master of Letters, honoris causa, on Monsignor Victor Grech. Resolution of the Senate and the Council. Whereas the University recognizes the significant contribution made by Victor Grech through his long, committed, and dedicated service to the social well-being of Maltese society, for the unwavering courage he has always shown when he has challenged taboos and mindsets about alcohol and substance abusers, poor people, and all victims of social injustice, and for being at the forefront in recognizing that the most oppressed members of society deserve the best service, and that this could only be afforded through the professional preparation of workers and volunteers in the social field. The university acclaims him a meritorious candidate for the degree of Master of Letters honoris causa of this alma mater. Now therefore, by virtue of the powers vested in us by the law and statutes governing this university, the said distinction of Master of Letters honoris causa is being conferred on Victor Grech on this 19th day of November of the year of our Lord 2021. Precarissime candidate, placuit autoritatibus universitati moderandi, prefectis dinium te declarare, che laurea insignibus decoreris. Sponsor, Professor Andrew Azzopardi.
Tuum in conspectum magnifice rector, aducumis hunc lectissimo candidatum omnibus laurea insignibus, more istitutoque maiore Matteo honestandum qui, a consiliaris et senatoribus huius universitatis dignissimis presentatus temox rogabit ut, tibi attribuita potestate, eum magisterium litterarium, honoris causa, reunites atque in esmodi, censu coptatum ad scriptumque, nomines atque edicas.
Ut itaque Deus, exoratus, vertat bene, nobis attributa autoritate, te, magistrum litterarum honoris causa, eo iure censeri, et esse quo optimo sunt creati ali, edicimus e pronunciamus, tibique omnibus honoribus, cum laurea coniunctis, fruendi et utenti, facultatem facimus. Cape iam collate tibi dignitatis ornamenta, et quid illa instituto maiorum portendat intellegge. Gesta sic toga manc, ut norint omnes te in magistrorum collegium allectum esse. Sit tibi liberalis pileus ic, velluti ornamentum laureum, quod donabantur post certamen victores. Cum vero te dignitate adepta, in totius academici, coetus nomine gratulemur, testetur tibi ic nostram plexus.
Eccellenza, President ta' Malta, Eccellenza Monsieur Ċisqof, Kanċellier, Rettur, u ħbib. Nixtieq rotħaj lir-Rettur, lis-Senat u l-Università għall-lotja ta' dan iġ-ġieħ. Grazzi wkoll lill-sponsor, Professur Andrew Azzopardi, illi nominani, u l-Professur Raymond John għal-riċerka li għamel fuqi u għal-prezentazzjoni imħeġġa tiegħu. Kienet sorpriża għalija illi fl-età ta' 92 sena insir naf illi l-Università ta' Malta ħasbet fija. Napprezza ħafna dan il-ġest għaliex qajjem fija tifkirit sbieħ ta' Żożiti f'din il-binja antika. Dawk kienu żminijiet oħra minħabba in-numru ristrett tal-istudenti għax konna noddu b'kollox 200 student fil-fakultajiet kollha fl-aħħar tal-erbejnijiet. Tnislet ħbiberija bejn l-istudenti u l-istaff akademiku illi ssuktat anki wara li gradwajna. Kenna għallima li waqt il-lectures tagħhom il-klab tal-Università kien jintalab l-istudenti. Kenna wkoll professuri li kienu marbutin żejjed man-noti li għatuna. Iżda l-maġġoranza tal-istaff akademiku kienu jispirawna u jqajmu fina il-ħerqa għar-riċerka u l-ħsieb ħieles. Din l-alma mater enitni fil-viżjoni u l-valuri tiegħi. Offrit li wkoll scholarship biex inkompli nitħarreġ fl-Università ta' Oxford. Illi ġejt imġiel warrab minħabba l-superjuri tiegħi kellhom pjanijiet oħra fuqi li għamluni rettur tas-seminarju fejn għaddejt 20 sena. Mill-aħħar tal-ħamsinijiet, id-dinja inbidlet b'ritmu maġġel. Malta bdiet tinbidel għal kollox u l-Università ta' Malta baqgħet tikber u tespandi. Id-dinja llum għandha sfidi kbar u nħoss li l-Università tista' tagħti kontribuzzjivi kif diġà qed tagħmel. Se nissemmi xi ħud minn dawn l-isfidi. Il-bidla fil-klima, il-ħtieġa ta' enerġija rinnovabbli, il-ħarsien tal-ambjent, il-ħtieġa ta' mudell ġdid ta' ekonomija aktar sostenibbli, it-teknoloġija diġitali, ir-riċerka li ssaħħaħ l-intrapriżi u t-taħriġ tal-mexxejja tagħha f'kull qasam b'ħiliet speċjalizzati li jġibu ridla fis-soċjetà. Infakkar il-kliem ta' Martin Luther King. We want leaders who do not love money but justice. We want leaders who do not love publicity but humanity. Minkejja l-isfidi, prinċipi gwida jibqgħu l-istess. Jiġifieri l-impenn biex inħajru u nkabbru il-ħsieb kreattiv u innovattiv. Mhux mal-istudenti jersaq l-Università, imma minn età bikrija. Illi nsaħħu u nwessaw ir-riċerka, illi minna jistgħu jibbenefikaw l-intrapriżi u fuq kollox li nippromovu il-kwalità tal-ħajja u l-ekwità. Ħajr l-Università għal kontribut siwi li qiegħda tagħti fir-riċerka. Dan l-avvanz fir-riċerka qiegħed ikun magħruf u mfaħħar barra mixtutna. Tinħass però ħtieġa għal riżorsi aktar u akbar bl-għajnuna tal-Gvern u tal-intrapriżi sabiex ir-riċerka tissokta tespandi. Issa ippermettuli naqsam magħkom fil-qosor x'tallimt mill-esperjenza tiegħi tas-37 sena qrib il-fqir u l-batut. Tallimt illi l-post privileġġjat fejn insibu lill-Alla u lil nafusna huwa fit-taħbit tal-fqir u l-batut. Id-djufija u l-faqar ta' ħuti fi bżonn u rewni id-djufija u l-faqar tiegħi. Tallimt li jekk ma nisimgħux il-weġgħat tan-nies u nħossuhom ġofina ma nistgħux ngħinuhom. Tallimt li l-ħajja mhijiex problema li għandha tiġi solvuta, iżda misteru li għandna ngħixu flimkien. Tallimt illi għandi nirrispetta id-dinjità u d-drittijiet ta' kull persuna umana. Ir-razziżmu fl-opinjoni tiegħi huwa vjolenza kontra l-umanità. Tallimt li f'kull persuna umana hemm iż-żerriegħa tal-qawmin. Jeħtieġu edukaturi veri li jarfu jkabbru il-potenzjal moħbi ta' kull persuna u jiżviluppaw it-tajjeb u s-sabiħ li hemm f'kull bniedem. Tallimt li soċjetà li tixtieq tibqa' fis-servizz tal-bniedem f'kull livell trid tieħu ħsieb u tkabbar il-ġid komuni bħala għan primarju tagħha. Dan il-ġid jekk titqassam b'ġustizzja għandu jilħaq lil kulħadd. F'soċjetà ġusta m'għandux ikun hemm min għandu ġid eċċessiv u min jitħabat biex jgħix ħajja denja ta' bniedem. Tallimt li trid issir qabża ta' kwalità mis-suċċess ekonomiku għan-narrattiva illi tħares u toss il-kwalità tal-ħajja tan-nies, is-sostenibilità u l-ekwità. Tallimt illi l-istatura ta' kull persuna umana għandha titqies mill-umanità tagħha u mill-imħabba mingħajr fruntieri b'rispett lejn id-dinjità u l-valuri ta' kull persuna. Wasalt fl-aħħar. Tallimt illi kull professjoni għandha tkun għas-servizz tal-bniedem biex tagħmel differenza fil-ħajja tan-nies. Tallimt li l-integrità għandha tkun ix-xewka tad-dar ta' kull attività umana. Is-suċċess m'għandux jinkiseb permezz tal-imbuttaturi iżda bil-mertu u l-kompetenza. Tallimt li d-demokrazija għandha tħares u tirrispetta id-drittijiet ta' kulħadd u li l-applikazzjoni tal-liġi għandha tkun l-istess għal kulħadd. Tallimt fuq kollox il-ħajja ma tagħmel sens jekk ma nħallux xi ħaġa sabiħa warajna. Grazzi ħafna.
Conferment of the degree of Master of Letters, honoris causa, on Reverend Dionysius Mintov. Resolution of the Senate and the Council. Whereas the University recognizes the significant contribution made by Dionysius Mintov for the use of his indefatigable energy and knowledge as a broadcaster and commentator on popular education, by virtue of the Maltese audiovisual media of telecommunications for half a century, for the pioneering of social studies in Malta's and Gozo schools at all levels, including the University of the country, for the establishment of the Peace Laboratory Pope John XXIII at Halfar, Malta, first as a complex for the scientific and humanistic education of people in general, and later also as a refugee center for immigrants, for the foundation of the Franciscans International, which was the first organization from a religious order to be given the role of observer in the United Nations. This university acclaims him a meritorious candidate for the degree of Master of Letters honoris causa of this alma mater. Now, therefore, by virtue of the powers vested in us by the law and statutes governing this university, the said distinction of Master of Letters honoris causa is being conferred on Dionysius Mintov on this 19th day of November of the year of our Lord, 2021. Plecrarissime candidate, placuit autoritatibus universitati moderandi, perfectis dinium te declarare, che laurea insignibus decoreris. Sponsor, Reverend Dr. John Berry.
Tuum conspectum magnificae rector, adducimus unc lectissimum candidatum, omnibus laureae insignibus, more institutoque maiorum a te honestandum, qui a conciliaris et senatoribus uius universitatis dignissimis presentatus, te mox rogabit ut tibi attribuita potestate, eum magistrum litterarum honoris causa renuncies, atque in eius modi censu cooptatum, adscriptumque nomines atque edicas.
Ut itaque Deus exoratus vertat bene, nobis attributa autoritate, te magistrum litterarum honoris causa, eo iure censeri, et esse quo optimo sunt creati ali, edicimus et pronunciamus, tibique omnibus honoribus, cum laurea conjunctis, fruendi et utenti facultatem facimus. Cape iam collate tibi dignitatis ornamenta, et quid illa instituto maiorum portendant intellegge. Gesta sic tanc, togam anc, ut norint omnes te in magistorum collegium allectum esse. Sit tibi liberalis pilleus ic, velluti ornamentum laureum, quod donabantur poscer tamen victores. Cum vero te de dignitate adepta in totius academici coetus, nomine gratulemur, testetur tibi ic nosteram plexus.
Sur President, Monsieur Archbishop, Honorable Ministry, Senat, Kunsill, ħbieb kulħadd. Nixtieq ngħid qabel xejn grazzi lis-Senat u l-Kunsill tal-Università ta' Malta għal dan il-ġieħ li ġbhom jagħtuni. Bih ġeltuni nħares għal ftit lejn il-modi tiegħi bi gratitudni u b'umiltà. U biex inħares ukoll lejn ġejjieni b'kuraġġ u ħeġġa. Erġa' ġejt din il-Klisja tal-Ġiżwiti għal darb'oħra. Ġejt żożiti u ġibtuni fi xi ħujti. Bejn dawn iż-żewġ okkażjonijiet tallimt u għallimt. Inbidlet ukoll ix-xena ta' Malta. Inbidlu n-nies u l-ġrajiet tagħhom. Fosthom kellna Gvernatur Ingliż, Gvernatur Malti, Presidenti Maltin, Malta Kolonja, Malta Indipendenti, Malta Repubblika. U minn dak iż-żmien rajt u smajt ħafna ħwejjeġ. Imma ħaġa waħda għadha forsi tinkwetani. Il-kultura li kellha tibda bi-sħiħ għadha ma sabbitx it-triq tagħha għal kollox. Ma ħdimniex l-art biżżejjed. Sa dakinhar għexna f'kultura ta' assedju u kavallieri. Imbagħad ta' gwerer militari u soldati. Kellna nibdew nqalbu l-art u ma ħallux ħamrija staġnata daqs il-blat. Kellna rejxu nibdew kultura ta' paċi. Ma nistgħux inkabbru t-tul u l-wisa ta' pajjiżna. Ma nistgħux nibku għal xejn il-jasar tal-Eġittu, imma nistgħu ngħixu fil-paċi. Mhux se nitkellem fuq dan, imma nixtieq li ħafna minna ma jibqgħux komdi u jħallu tiġi xi kriżi jew għawġ biex ifakkarna f'dan. Naħseb ukoll li intom qed tisimgħuni tistennew li llejla norbot xi ħaġa fuq il-ħidma jew viżjoni tas-semm li tajna biex tkunu tafuna meta noħorġu ftit mill-qoxra tagħna. Min aħna? Kif bdejna? Wieħed li żmien ilu u ieħor ta' żmienna tawna ħajja u ħolma. Wieħed kien żagħżugħ qani, sabiħ, żnell, iħobb ix-xagħla. L-ieħor kien żagħżugħ fqir, matnazz u miġbur. Wieħed missieru negozjant kbir magħruf f'pajjiżu u barra minn pajjiżu. L-ieħor iben ta' bidwi fil-kampanja u aktar intaqa' u ra bejjem milli ra nies. Wieħed ommu gawditu mhux ħażin, semmitu Ġanni, u n-nies u missieru laqmuh il-Franċiż. L-ieħor bil-kemm jaf jimxi semmitu Angelo, imbagħad hu u oħrajn qalbu ismu fi Ġwanni. It-tnejn mietu imma baqgħu ħajjin għax qalbu ta' taħt fuq il-kultura ta' żmienhom. Ħallew ħamrija radba adatat il-frott ta' żmienna. It-tnejn kellhom ħaġa waħda, l-istess messaġġ miktub bil-linka li ma tinxef qatt. Wieħed kien ħajjitna u ruħna, u l-ieħor id-dawl ta' kowba li tiġi meta nsibu ruħna fil-maltemp. Kienu San Franġisk u l-Papa Ġwanni 23. Il-ħajja u kull ħidma tibqa' marbuta magħhom. Nerġa' ngħid, San Franġisk kien il-bidu, Papa Ġwanni 23 kien it-triq. Pax et bonum u pacem in terris. Aħna u l-Franġisku ta' Assisi segwejn sew il-Papa Ġwanni 23. Lejlet il-Kunċilju Vatikan it-tieni mar Assisi jitlob lil San Franġisk. Qalbna faret bil-ferħ għall-ittra tiegħu Matret Maġistra. Ftit ħbieb u ftit żgħażagħ mis-sixth form fejn kont nagħllem dik il-ħabta. Iltqajna fiċ-ċella tiegħi fil-kunvent ta' Taġiżu tal-Belt. Rajna b'attenzjoni kbira l-ittra li kiteb. Fl-istess żmien, Patri Wistin Portelli rċieva ittra mat Patri Kostantin Kozer, il-ġeneral tagħna, fejn talbu bħala provinċjal biex jitlob u biex il-provinċja tissuġġerixxi proġett konkret biex tikber u sseħħ il-ħolma tal-Papa Ġwanni 23 għal paċi fid-dinja. Patri Wistin sejjaħ xi patrijiet fosthom lili biex naraw x'istgħu nagħmlu. Tlabt, ħsibt u ppreżentajt proġett. Kien proġett biex juru l-kruħa tal-gwerra u sbuħija tal-paċi u xi post fejn tfakkar il-gwerra biex inbidel f'ċentru tal-paċi. Tlabna, tħallimna u tgħallimna fuq li tgħallimna. Ħidma ta' rikunċiljazzjoni f'pajjiżna meta kien hawn kriżi politika reliġjuża ħarxa u studju kontinju tas-sinjal taż-żminijiet u ngħixu ir-realtà tas-sitwazzjoni, mhux il-gossip, ix-xnijat, il-fake news tal-ġurnali jew nkella ta' ħadd ieħor. Ġie approvat u bdejna ħidma kemm f'pajjiżna u kemm barra minn pajjiżna. Hekk tnissel u twieled il-Laboratorju tal-Paċi. Bdejna mill-qiegħ nett. Studjajna kemm kien hawn uġigħ ta' kull xorta. Bdejna mit-tfal biex waqt li nagħlmu inkunu qegħdin investu fil-futur. L-ewwel proġett kien u llum l-arba l-eruq għax ilu sejjer 56 sena il-premju għat-tjubija. U semmejnieh għal Papa Ġwanni, il-Papa Buono. Fl-istess ħin idna nibnulu monument ħaj il dan il-Papa. U kienet ukoll l-ewwel medalja li ngħatat wara li spiċċaw il-medalji tal-gwerra mogħtijin mill-ħakkiema Brittaniċi u oħrajn ta' qabilhom. Tallimna ħafna u għatanna x'nitalmu x'in naraw tifel jew tifla tieħu l-medalja fil-Palazz tal-Belt mingħand il-President tar-Repubblika li llum ukoll sar il-ġurnata fil-kalendarju tiegħu. Wara tħabatna u sibna post mitluq ġo ħalfar fejn kien hemm qabel miġbura 4,000 soldat mill-Commonwealth kollu fl-aqwa tal-gwerra. Ġew tapposta jżuruhom u jarawhom l-aqwa mexxej dak iż-żmien tal-alleati. Churchill, Roosevelt u Molotov flok Stalin. Ħadniha f'idejna din il-biċċa kappella. Bdinniha f'oasi tal-paċi, ċentru ta' tagħlim u riċerka kontinwa fuq is-sinjali taż-żminijiet. Kif infetħu l-bibien minn Giuseppe Roncalli li ġie apposta biex jinawgura dan iċ-ċentru u tqedet l-ewwel ġebla minn Patrick Ozer, il-ġeneral tal-Ordni tagħna, u l-gvernatur ta' dak iż-żmien Ser Anthony Mamo, ħassejna tabtipa ta' kuraġġ. U bdejna fuq rikonċiljazzjoni. Insistejna ħafna fuq it-tagħlim u ftaħna kursijiet apposta. Flejna kemm stajna il-ġrajiet ta' snin 60 u 70 meta nfetaħ. Esperimentajna kif inwasslu tas-sew f'laboratorju il-messaġġ ta' paċi. F'dan il-perjodu tal-qtil tal-aħwa Kennedy, ta' Malcolm X, ta' Martin Luther King u oħrajn, inxteret ħafna demm. Kien għaddejja l-gwerra fil-Vjetnam, ġlied minn gruppi ta' gwerilli fl-Amerika Latina, ir-rivoluzzjoni kulturali fiċ-Ċina, is-sittim gwerra bejn Iżrael u l-Istati Arab, il-kop ta' stat fil-Greċja, il-protesti fil-Greċja u l-ħarifa fl-Italja. Għal kull waħda ġbarna nies biex insegwu numru ta' dokumentarji u pamphlets, stampajna mill-inqas 170 pamphlet u rejna 40 dokumentarju. Sa dan il-tant ħassejna wkoll li billi l-Ordni Franġiskan kellu netwerk ta' konventi madwar id-dinja kollha għandu jżomm ruħu informat sewwa, mhux fuq il-gossip u xnijat u fake news, imma sewwa x'qed jiġri u hekk wassalna wkoll biex iċ-ċoqqa timxi fil-kurituri tal-ġnus Magħquda. Billi sibna ruħna bħala l-ewwel osservaturi uffiċjali fid-dar tagħhom bħala Franciscans International li għadu jaħdem sal-lum ħafna xogħol ta' ġid. Fl-1968 mbagħad beda il-qawmin taż-żgħażagħ. L-istudenti saru forza soċjali. Niżlu fil-pjazzes, xahar twil, lieset maħmuġin, ġlied mal-pulizija, protesti fit-toroq kontra l-gwerra fil-Vjetnam, kolb ta' stat fiċ-Ċili u dittaturi militari fl-Amerika Latina u feġġet ir-rebbija tar-rivoluzzjoni fil-Portugal. Għajjat ma' kullimkien ta' ġustizzja u gwaljanza. Dawn iż-żgħażagħ għemlu ħafna fil-qawwa tal-poplu. B'sarna se jiġri kellhom jispiċċaw waħedhom għax vjolenza tnissel vjolenza. Oħdimna fil-kwiet mal-imwarbin u ftaħna malajr dar Gubbio fil-Ħamrun fejn għal ħafna snin laqgħet żgħażagħ jiġru fit-toroq u mill-qrati kienu mibgħuta għandna għax missieru u ommhom ma rridhuhomx. Wara bdejna għaqda taż-żgħażagħ tagħna. Bdew jisimgħu bir-rivoluzzjoni tal-Romford fil-Portugal, fil-bombi tal-faxxisti fi Pjazza della Loggia fi Brescia, tal-tren Italicus, tad-divorzju, tal-abort fl-Italja, il-qtil ta' Aldo Moro u l-mewt ta' Mao Zedong. Intfajna bruħna u ġisibna fuq dan it-tagħlim. Emmilna l-bit-tagħlim, kanna bnidew din it-triq u nkomplu dejjin. Bdejna għal sisħaħ laqgħat taż-żgħażagħ matul il-weekends f'Ħalfar. Mijiet ta' żgħażagħ ħadu sehem dawn il-weekends u laqqajniehom ma' żgħażagħ oħra minn pajjiżi Ewropej u pajjiżi oħrajn. Kellhom l-aċċess għall-informazzjoni u t-tagħlim. Kienu snin tal-Pink Floyd, ta' Elton John, ta' Venditti, ta' De Gregory. Żmien tar-rock opera Jesus Christ Superstar u żmien il-film The Exorcist. U aħna b'kura u b'ħafna ħalb u ħeġġa ġbarna fit-Teatru Malbel iż-żgħażagħ għal-rock opera bil-mużika tal-Maestro Carmelo Abela u 3 rock opera saħ warahom, il-famuża Jonathan u l-famuża kitba ta' Helder Kamera li bata apposta għalina. Imbagħad mexxejna trax il-dram sħiħ, antoloġija ta' drammi, il-Nasba, miktuba u mmexxija fuq il-post minn Francis Ebeyer. Saru fit-teatru tagħna. Emmilna fil-bżonn tat-tagħlim u tħanna fl-iskejjel fejn organizzajna u bdejna it-tagħlim tal-istudju soċjali mill-iskejjel primari sal-università. Innovazzjoni ġdida għal kollox f'dawn l-iskejjel. Jekk il-protagonisti ta' snin 60 u 70 kienu żgħażagħ, issa il-figura tal-mara spikkat sewwa. L-aktar bil-feministi jiġru mat-toroq ixejlu l-fjura tal-mimoża u jgħidu jien sittijaj innifsi. Erġajna għafasna fuq it-tagħlim. Erġajna ġbarna żgħażagħ biex ninvestu dejjem fil-futur. Kien hemm bżonn tat-tagħlim aktar fl-iskejjel u kien hemm bżonn għall-edukazzjoni popolari ma' kullimkien. Bdejna ġurnal b'eluf ta' kopji fix-xahar għal 30 sena sħaħ it-tieqa li kienet timxi mal-iskejjel u timxi f'ħafna għaqdiet. Bdejna xandiriet fil-medja kollha, riflessjoni ta' kuljum għal 57 sena sħaħ sal-lum ma fennejniex ġurnata waħda intambru b'kelma ta' tagħlim, vaċċinazzjoni żieda ta' vitamini. Flimkien ma' ġemma kbira ta' nies fil-Knisja tagħna f'Ħalfar li jinġabru kull nhar ta' Sibt u nhar ta' Ħadd jitolbu għal paċi. Imma l-mira tagħna kienet u għada l-imwarbin u l-foqra u din ma naqset qatt. Gerbu snin 80 u 90 fuq il-laboratorju tal-paċi u l-ħidma tiegħu ma ta' xejn. U l-bidu tas-seklu ġdid daħħalna f'ħidma ġdida għal kollox li qatt ma ħsibna fuqha qabel bil-wasla għall-arrieda tal-ewwel emigranti fi xtutna u sewwa sew quddiem biebna f'Ħalfar. Saru l-ewwel ġirien tagħna u mit-twieqi tagħhom stajna nisimgħu l-krip u l-uġigħ tagħhom. Bla ma tlaqna minn xejn ta' kull ħidma li kellna ħarsitna marritna fuqhom. Għedna lil San Franġisk u l-messaġġ tiegħu taħdaw ġdid. Imnalla kellna din il-fidi kbira. Kellna nikkumbattu sa fil-qrati u kienu nikkumbattu anki fuq l-art. Issa l-Afrika ġiet tħabbat wara biebna. Ġew l-insara u ġew il-Musulmani. Ftaħna l-beħbera għal kulħadd u ftaħna dar fis-sqalija biex tilqaħħom fi vjaġġ. Saru biċċa mill-familja tagħna. Ma bqajniex kulur wieħed. Sirna qawsalla ta' kuluri ta' paċi li tixref kuljum fis-sema tagħna ta' Ħalfar. Għandhom dar ta' ken, klinika, ġim, kċina, Knisja Kattolika, Moskea Musulmana, Kamra Komuni tat-Talb għal kulħadd. Għandhom skola għal-lingwa u anki t-tarif. Għandhom laqgħat ta' kull xahar ma' Maltin ma' barranin. Għandhom ix-xogħol. Sar jaf bihom kulħadd bit-tajjeb u l-ħażin tagħhom. U kif huma saru jafu bit-tajjeb u l-ħażin tagħna. U għandhom il-Papa Franġisku li jħobbhom daqskemm iħobbhom San Franġisku liedu. Is-seklu tagħna se jibqa' jissemma għal pandemija COVID-19 li libsitna l-maskra ma' wiċċna. Kif tgħaddi, kulħadd se juri wiċċu sewwa. Wiċċ wieħed li jibdel id-dera tiegħu bil-maskri li jibdel kuljum imma qatt ma jibdel xemmuh bi f'qalbu. Ma' wiċċna tħabbat mewġa oħra ta' ambjent li ħammiġna u arja u klima li qed tifgana u f'idnejna it-tambar il-karba tal-foqra, it-twerżieqa tomna n-natura, it-tnejda tal-art. Bil-kuraġġ u t-twemmin tal-umanità kollha nidħlu wkoll għat-twissija ta' din il-karba qawwija. Fit-tmur għandna l-Papa Franġisku li mqadef f'idej San Franġisku l-Papa Ġwanni. Ir-reliġjonijiet, il-politiċi, l-isfijiet, l-universitajiet kollha qegħdin jgħalmu kemm ifilħu. Imma l-kriżi turi hekk it-tagħlim tagħhom għadux relevanti għaż-żmien tal-lum. L-Università għandha l-isfida li tgħallem li ħadd ma jista' jibqa' spectator komdu bideħ fuq zaqqu jara traġedja wara traġedja u jilbes il-maskra biex jaħbi wiċċu u ma jnarafx. U lanqas ħadd m'għandu jdabbar rasu billi jibqa' iżomm id-distanza fejn jaqbillu. Grazzi.
I now invite Professor Mario Valentino to deliver an oration in honor of Professor Gianrico Farrugia.
Your Excellencies, Chancellor, Prorectors, Deans, distinguished and honorable guests, good evening. I am grateful to the University Senate and Council for the honor and privilege of recognizing an outstanding alumnus of our alma mater, Professor Gianrico Farrugia, who now walks tall on the world stage of giants in the medical field. Let me first start by acknowledging the prime mover of today's event, a distinguished friend and mentor, Professor Frank Vella, an emeritus professor in biochemistry from the University of Saskatchewan, Canada. Frank also shares the distinction of being a recipient of an honorary doctorate from the University of Malta. Gianrico Farrugia, the son of a medical doctor who established the first blood bank in Malta and who served as an ambassador to the Holy See, attended St. Aloysius College. And I can say that I am proud to have been his friend and classmate. Gianrico was exceptionally intelligent and a very focused student. Though brilliance was evident from a young age, he was down-to-earth, jovial, unassuming, friendly, and keen to help his classmates. His family and school nurtured his talents and capabilities, and he is on record as stating, "I owe a lot of my success to my father and mother, who taught me to work hard, to give back, and to be fair. To the Jesuits at St. Aloysius College, who taught me how to think, especially the late Father Louis Borge." Gianrico completed his medical degree at the University of Malta in 1987. Following his residency at St. Luke's Hospital, he took up a position at Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, and completed his formal studies as a clinician investigator fellow in the Division of Gastroenterology at the Mayo Graduate School of Medicine, Minnesota. Gianrico has publicly credited the Faculty of Medicine and Surgery at the University of Malta for his formative years. He says, "I look back at the days of growing up and realize we had a very good upbringing, and that also includes the University of Malta, which set me up with a very strong foundation because of the rigor of the 5 years of medical school, which included meeting Professor Michael Camilleri, which is how I ended up at Mayo Clinic, and working with Prorector Professor Joseph Cacciotolo and others," said Gianrico as he dwelt on his past. He was appointed consultant at the Division of Gastroenterology and Hepatology and at the Department of Physiology and Biomedical Engineering at the Mayo Clinic College of Medicine in Rochester, where he is Professor of Physiology and Professor of Medicine. Professor Farrugia's clinical focus is gastroparesis, a condition that impacts the motility of the stomach muscles to propel food through the digestive tract and the cause of several complications. He developed new clinical ways to obtain tissue through endoscopic full-thickness biopsies and created novel therapeutic targets which have entered into current clinical practice. He also helped establish the Gastroparesis Clinical Research Consortium, which brings US experts in the gastroparesis field together to improve patient care. He also served as president of the American Neurogastroenterology and Motility Society and editor of Neurogastroenterology and Motility. Professor Farrugia's interests in gastroenterology are noteworthy for their applied and translational orientation. As the director of the Enteric Neuroscience Program, his research focus has been on the role of interstitial cells of Cajal, ion channel manipulation, slow transit constipation, and gastroparesis, and more recently, multiple omics, and the microbiome. He has published more than 300 articles in high-impact journals. His research in genomics and the treatment of disorders of gastrointestinal motility was regularly funded over the past 25 years by the NIH and has inspired countless applications in the domains of medicine. He founded the Mayo Clinic Center of Innovation and was co-author of the book Think Big, Start Small, Move Fast, a blueprint for transformation from the Mayo Clinic Center for Innovation, a book that highlights the need for change in the delivery of healthcare. He also brought into being the Mayo Clinic Center for Individualized Medicine that brings genomics into routine clinical care. In January 2019, Gianrico was appointed President and CEO of Mayo Clinic, following his position as Vice President and CEO of Mayo Clinic branch in Florida over the previous 4 years. With his characteristic humility, he has stated that as a physician growing up on a tiny island in the Mediterranean, to be asked to be CEO of Mayo Clinic is profound. It's an honor and it's something I really don't take for granted. Mayo Clinic has been recognized consistently as a leading medical institution in the US and globally. With a staff of more than 73,000 and revenue of nearly 13 billion, Mayo Clinic cares for more than 1.3 million patients from all 50 US states and nearly 140 countries each year. Under Professor Farrugia's leadership, Mayo Clinic continues to provide tailored, compassionate, quality care, bringing together exceptional professionals and dedicated staff that creatively solve complex medical problems and develop new cures through innovative research. Despite his overwhelming responsibilities and demanding schedules, Gianrico remains an accessible, grounded, exemplary gentleman and dedicated professional with a marked ability to inspire those around him to participate in his broad vision for the future of tailored and compassionate healthcare. Distinguished guests, my words cannot do justice to the achievements of Professor Farrugia, whose leadership, vision, and inspiration have touched the lives of many around the globe and provided a beacon of hope to humanity. Chancellor, it is my honor to present to you Professor Gianrico Farrugia for the award of the degree of Doctor of Science, honoris causa, for his valuable contributions to humanity.
Conferment of the degree of Doctor of Science, honoris causa, on Professor Gianrico Farrugia. Resolution of the Senate and the Council. Whereas the University recognizes the significant contribution made by Gianrico Farrugia, an outstanding alumnus of our alma mater, now President and Chief Executive Officer of the Mayo Clinic, Minnesota, USA, a Professor of Medicine and Professor of Physiology, an accomplished clinician specialized in gastroenterology and a prolific scientist and innovator recognized worldwide, who established the Mayo Clinic Center of Innovation and fostered individualized medicine, helping to bring genomics into routine clinical care, and for his outstanding patient-oriented leadership and inspiration that reaffirms the Mayo Clinic as a leader in healthcare and medical research at a global level. The university acclaims him a meritorious candidate for the degree of Doctor of Science, honoris causa, of this alma mater. Now therefore, by virtue of the powers vested in us by the law and statutes governing this university, the said distinction of Doctor of Science honoris causa is being conferred on Gianrico Farrugia on this 19th day of November of the year of our Lord, 2021. Precarissime candidate, placuit autoritatibus universitate moderandi, prefectis dignum te declarare che laurea insignibus decoreris. Sponsor, Professor Godfrey Laferlo.
Tu min conspectum magnifice rector, adducimus unc lectissimum candidatum, omnibus laurea insignibus, movens tutoque maiorum, a te honestandus sci, a consiliaris et senatoribus uius universitatis dignissimi presentatus, te mox rogabut ut, tibi attributa potestate, eum doctorem in scientias honores causa veniuntes, atque in eus modi, censu cooptatum assuctoque, nomines atque edicas.
Ut itaque Deus, exoratus, vertat bene, nobis attributa autoritate, te doctor in scientia, honoris causa, eo iure censeri, et esse quo optimo sunt creati, ali edicimus et pronunciamus, tibique omnibus honoribus, cum laurea coniunctis, fruendi et utenti facultatem facimus. Cape iam collate tibi dignitatis ornamenta, et quid illa instituto maiorum portendat intellegge. Gesta sic toga manc, ut norint omnes te in doctorum collegium allectum esse. Sit tibi liberalis pilleus sic, velluti laureum ornamentum, quo donabantur post certamen victores. Cum vero te, de dignitate adepta in totius academici coetus, nomere gratulemur, testetur tibi hic nostram plexus.
So, to the University of Malta, Senate and Council, thank you for conferring upon me this prestigious honorary degree. And I mean it when I say I am truly honored. And to Professor Mario Valentino, thank you for your thoughtful and way too kind oration. And of course, I very much remember our time together at school. Thank you also to Professor Frank Vella, who, as you heard, also proposed my name. To His Excellency, President Vella, the Archbishop, Minister, Chancellor, Rector, Prorectors, academic staff, and distinguished guests. Thank you for being here for this very special occasion. Let me start off by thanking my family, especially my wife Geraldine, who has had to share me with Mayo Clinic, my brother, Dr. Mark Farrugia, my mother, my sister Karen and her husband Anton, and my wife's father Edwin and her sister Gabby and husband Peter are here today. And thank you for your love and support over many years and often across many kilometers. I want to specifically mention and thank my late father, Dr. Paul Farrugia, who together with my mother instilled the values and sense of fairness that guide me through all I do. And I'd like to thank our two sons, Luke and Stefan, whom Geraldine and I are so proud of as they follow into healthcare. Finally, I'd like to thank my 73,000 colleagues at Mayo Clinic. Their dedication, sacrifice, and brilliance are very much the reason I'm here today to accept this degree. Thank you for all you do for our patients. Amongst those colleagues are several Maltese doctors who make Malta very proud. I'm truly humbled to be one of today's honorees and to be recognized by a distinguished institution like the University of Malta, a university which for hundreds of years has been a repository for the culture, the tradition, and the natural history of our island. And I'm especially humbled because, as Professor Valentino mentioned, I'm also an alumnus. I started my career in medicine at the University of Malta and had a great medical education. I was then introduced to Mayo Clinic by Professor Michael Camilleri, who was honored here a couple of years ago, and I distinctly remember attending my first lecture there and realizing that my training in Malta had prepared me well for this next phase in my life. Since then, I've had numerous opportunities to make my aspirations in research, in education, in clinical practice, and in administration real. When I arrived at Mayo Clinic, I knew I was very lucky to join an integrated healthcare institution with deeply held values of teamwork, collaboration, innovation, and respect, whose primary value is that the needs of the patient always come first. I've now been at Mayo Clinic for over 30 years, the last several years leading as CEO. I've had the great privilege to work with many extraordinary colleagues who provide exceptional care and compassion for our patients with serious and/or complex medical conditions who come to us from 140 countries every year. I'm also grateful that we've been able to help a few Maltese patients along the way. Now, at the same time, we know there are many patients who need expert care and cannot come to our campuses to receive it. At Mayo Clinic, we recognized that we could do more, and we felt called to lead in addressing these problems. 3 years ago, we created our 2030 Bold Forward plan to do exactly that, with the goal of transforming healthcare for the benefit of all by creating the first true digital healthcare platform. I see this not only as Mayo Clinic's strategic plan, but as a true model for the transformation of healthcare across the globe. We already rely on digital platforms for online and digital communication and work, among many other crucial functions. Now, this needs to include healthcare. Mayo's platform functions in 4 domains. The first is the need to gather data while also using strict and innovative data privacy rules to keep patient data safe so it never leaves Mayo Clinic, while the output, the results that result in a transformation in how we keep people well, is available to all. The next is discover. We have to create new and better tools to discover ways to prevent and treat disease. In a recent example, we created an artificial intelligence tool that has helped physicians diagnose treatable early heart failure and future cardiac arrhythmias and stroke risk, all from a very simple electrocardiogram. And we can do it 5 years earlier than current state-of-the-art tests pick up the same diseases. We have now also expanded this tool to data recorded from their smartwatches. It's truly instantly scalable and transformation. A platform approach also provides access to all, allowing the same data sets to inform care for complex and/or serious disease, as well as for global health. Next is validate. We know that certain populations already suffer from a worse health outcome than others, and we must make sure that our new digital tools do not add to this disparity. By validating our tools and sharing our diversity data widely, we'll make sure we decrease this gap in outcomes. And the fourth is deliver. We have to deliver scalable new ways to keep people well and treat the sick. At Mayo, one way we've done this is through a new program that has let us safely look after thousands of patients in their own homes when they normally would be admitted into our hospitals, and with excellent safety, outcomes, and patient satisfaction. This program can replace up to 30% of current hospitalizations, and is one reason why Newsweek ranked Mayo Clinic both as the #1 hospital in the world and the #1 smart hospital in the world. The power and potential of a platform is immense. We're seeing its impact on patients every day. We have a responsibility to lead the transformation of healthcare because no one else can do it for us. This pandemic has showed a clear need for the global healthcare system to transform from a traditional model towards a platform model that is adaptable and resilient. And it showed us that we can confidently expand and scale our digital and telehealth care tools to reach even more patients across the world. We must come together as one international community to create a better global warning system powered by the right data and analytics, working in real time. We must change our educational methods to encourage the next generation of healthcare providers and professionals to be even more innovative, flexible, collaborative, and passionate for this field, because there's no higher calling than providing hope and healing to those in need. We know that we cannot lead alone, both in the United States and across the world. And I'm grateful that as healthcare has become more integrated globally, the University of Malta is committed to a vision of exceptional education, research, and medical practice. Thank you for continuing to train future generations of leaders and thinkers in healthcare and many other fields of study. And thank you again for this great honor. It is truly humbling for me to be so recognized and have the work of my colleagues and all of Mayo Clinic known and appreciated throughout the world and here in Malta. Thank you.
I now invite Reverend Dr. John Berry to deliver an oration in honor of His Eminence Cardinal Mario Grech.
Eccellenza President ta' Malta, Eccellenza Monsignora Cisqof, Eccellenzi, Onorevoli Ministru, Kanċellier, Prorettur, Proretturi, kollegi u ħbieb. Dawk li jafu mill-qrib il-Isqof wissa Kardinal Mario Grech bla dubju jafuh bħala bniedem ta' kelma qawwija, radikali u attent għad-dettall. Huwa ddistingwa ruħu għall-istil frisk fit-tmexxija tal-Knisja fi żminijiet ta' tiġdid u anki għall promozzjoni ta' ħajja ċivika u ġusta fil-Gżejjer tagħna. Ħalla impatt bil-kelma ta' mexxej spiritwali, kelma spiss ġentili u kultant iebsa li hija indirizzata lil kulħadd u li tolqot fil-laħam il-ħaj. Wettaq ħidmietu bħala Isqof ta' Għawdex għal kważi 14-il sena bejn l-2005 u l-2019 fejn adotta il-motto Infrazzjone Panis fil-qsim tal-ħobs. F'dan il-kuntest jibqa' magħruf għat-ton pastorali, eżortattiv u distintiv tiegħu. Inġbarna hawn illum biex niċċelebraw ħidmet il-Kardinal Grech u l-figura tiegħu fil-Gżejjer tagħna u li lin minn xtutna għas-servizz tal-Knisja lill-umanità. Kardinal Grech sar responsabbli biex jiggwida l-akbar proġetti li l-Papa għażel li jħaddem. Fil-Ministeru tiegħu ta' Saċerdot u ta' Isqof eżerċita spiritu ta' qawwa biex imexxi, jgħallem u anki jiddefendi l-pożizzjoni tal-Knisja favur il-bniedem. Iżda l-aktar passaq li tiegħu kien li xorob mill-lajn tal-ispirtu jew aħjar tal-ispiritwalità radikali li doqna bil-ħatra tal-Papa Franġisku fit-tmexxija tal-Knisja fl-2013. Hawnhekk seta' jimraħ fir-radikalità nisranija paradossali u umanizzanti. Il-Kardinal Grech fehem li ma' Franġisku infetħu orizzonti ġodda bi proposta ta' stil ġdid ta' ħidma pastorali kif ukoll attenzjoni lejn il-periferiji tas-soċjetà fejn l-għajta favur il-fqar l-emarġinati u żgħar fis-soċjetà issa ġiet mismuha. Għal Mario Grech dan kollu ma kienx ġdid. Miċċokon fuq l-eżempju ta' ommu Stella u missieru George kellu qalb disposta u miftuħa għal proxmu. Familtu li mill-qala marret toqgħod kerċem laqatu ma' karattri, esperjenzi u avventuri ġodda. Forsi l-aktar waħda li mmarkatu kienet stedina biex jissokta jagħmel ħidma volontarja mal-għaqda tal-persuni b'diżabilità. Stedina li waslitu biex jaraf is-sejħa għas-saċerdozju. Min dilettant tal-fotografija qabel ma daħal is-seminarju tħarreġ biex jissokta jilmaħ xenarji li minnhom kienet għaddejja s-soċjetà u l-Knisja. Itfajjel Kerċmi li sar kardinal il-qudiem għaraf 3 nawfraġi ta' żminijietna li jeħtieġu attenzjoni sfiqa tal-partijiet kollha. In-nawfraġġju tal-kuxjenza individwali u kollettiva li meta tkun taħt id-dittatura tas-soġġettiviżmu toktor id-diżordni u l-bniedem isir theddida għal xulxin. It-tieni, in-nawfraġġi taż-żwieġ u l-familja. Isostni Mario Grech li jekk il-familja tara fis-salpa, allura hemm futur għall membri tagħha u għas-soċjetà. It-tielet, in-nawfraġġju tal-fidi li jingħeleb biss bil-ferħ tal-Vanġelu. Kontribut ewlieni fil-Ministeru tiegħu u s-sejħa kontinwa għal konverżjoni pastorali f'kull qasam tal-ħajja. Isostni li f'soċjetà ta' pluralizmu kulturali u reliġjuż trid issir għażla missjonarja li kapaċi tibdel kull ħaġa biex id-drawwiet, l-istili, il-ħinijiet, il-lingwaġġ u kull struttura ekleżjali jsiru kanal u strument għall-evanġelizzazzjoni tad-dinja tal-lum. L-għajta tiegħu hija waħda għall-ħniena, l-aktar lejn dawk f'sitwazzjoni ta' periferija. Darba għalhekk Alla għani fil-ħniena u ma jaħmilx jarana mifluġin. Qatt ma għandna naqtaw qalbna mill-miżerikordja ta' Alla. Għalhekk nagħmlu l-qalb. Il-ħniena ta' Alla hija għajn ta' il-maġiri qatt mi ser tinxef imma tibqa' ssaqqi biex fuq arċarija tnibbet u tagħti l-frott. Is-sejħa tiegħu hi azzjoni kontemplattiva li twieġeb għal bidla fundamentali minn kristjaneżmu soċjoloġiku li qed inhin maż-żmien għal urġenza li tkun knisja missjonarja, knisja li toħroġ il barra jew saħansitra waħda li tibda minn barra u tterraq lejn iċ-ċentru. L-Isqof Mario Grech għamel żjajjar fraterni l-komunitajiet u l-parroċċi kollha ta' Għawdex waqt li bejn l-2013 u l-2016 għamel vista pastorali fil-15 il-komunità parrokjali ta' djoċesi. Għamel żjajjar pastorali l-emigranti fl-Istati Uniti tal-Amerika, il-Kanada u l-Awstralja. Għamel ukoll żjajjar pastorali fl-artijiet tal-missjoni fl-Albanija, il-Brażil u l-Peru. Fittex li jifforma l-qalb tal-poplu b'20 ittra pastorali li kiteb bħala Isqof ta' Għawdex u 34 oħra l-indirizza bħala membru tal-Konferenza Episkopali Maltija. Ġeddet kważi l-parrokat Awċi kollu. Fatt ta' parroċċi reġgħet infetħet il-kanonika parrokjali fejn numru ta' saċerdoti jgħixu flimkien mal-kappillan. Fetaħ ċentru ta' terapija familjari, wettaq riforma fit-tribunal ekleżjastiku kif ukoll waqqaf entità li teduka u toffri sapport għal protezzjoni tal-minuri fil-Knisja, kif ukoll b'mod ġenerali fil-komunità lokali. Huwa ħadem fuq proġett soċjali u ta' karità u fl-2017 inawgura iċ-Ċentru ta' Arti Liturġika Ejkon bil-għan li fi djoċesi jkun hemm tiġdid fl-arti sagra u liturġika. Mexxa l-ordinazzjoni presbiterali ta' 24 saċerdot djoċeżan u 2 reliġjużi, kif ukoll dik episkopali tal-Isqof Awċi George Buġejja Franġiskan. Kien ukoll President tal-Konferenza Episkopali Maltija bejn l-2013 u l-2016. Serva bħala rappreżentant tal-istess konferenza fuq kumitati tal-isfijiet Ewropej, il-Komese u ċ-CCEE. Ta' semu fit-3 sinodi tal-isfijiet dan l-aħħar ġie maħtur mill-Papa Franġisku bħala Segretarju Ġenerali tas-Sinodu tal-Isfijiet. Fil-Kardinal Grech insibu fuq kollox vuċi li tnissel ix-xewqa għal Alla, fejn il-Knisja tirrikonċilja ruħha mas-soċjetà anjostika u kważi atea biex kull bniedem li għandu il-ġamar minn nar ta' Alla f'qalbu tkun biżżejjed żiffa ħelwa fuqu biex dan jerġa' jaqbad. Bħala kardinali llum aktar jikber fih l-impenn lejn l-isforz biex il-Knisja tagħti wiċċ aktar uman lis-soċjetà. Qudiemna bħala Knisja għandna sejħa biex insiru esperti tal-umanità, isostni il-Kardinal, b'qalb li tħenn u li tgħin lil proxmu, b'qalb intelligenti li taraf il-verità, qalb li tiġġedded u qalb li tfittex dak li huwa tassew tajjeb. Huwa biss jekk ikollna din il-milja ta' umanità li nistgħu nqanqlu il-kurzità fl-oħrajn li jistaqsu x'inhu s-sigriet ta' ħajja sabiħa u bis-sens. Dan hu li jiġbor l-ispirtu u l-ħidma fiskiet tat-tielet kardinal mill-Gżejjer tagħna Mario Grech. Grazzi ħafna.
Conferment of the degree of Doctor of Philosophy, honoris causa, on His Eminence Cardinal Mario Grech. Resolution of the Senate and the Council, whereas the University recognizes the significant contribution made by Mario Grech to the promotion and strengthening of an approach of compassionate communion of the Church with society in its vast diversity of beliefs, lifestyles, and attitudes, to fostering a culture of fraternal and sororal dialogue that necessitates active participation, genuine solidarity, and honest transparency by all involved, to exercising a humane pastoral vision and a ministry of mercy in relation to the world. The University acclaims him a meritorious candidate for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy honoris causa of this alma mater. Now therefore, by virtue of the powers vested in us by the law and statutes governing this university, the said distinction of Doctor of Philosophy honoris causa is being conferred on Mario Grech on this 19th day of November of the year of our Lord, 2021. Per carissime candidate, placuit autoritatibus universitati moderandi, prefectis dinium te declarare che laurea insignibus decoreris. Sponsor, Reverend Dr. John Berry.
Tuum in conspectum magnifice rector adducimus unc lectissimum candidatum omnibus laurea insignibus more institutoque maiorum a te honestandum qui a consiliaris et senatoribus uius universitatis dinissimis presentatus te mox rogabit ut tibi attribuita potestate eum doctorem in philosophia honoris causa renuncies atque in eius modi censu cooptatum ad scriptumque nomines atque edicas.
Ut itaque Deus exoratus vertat bene nobis attributa autoritate te doctorum in philosophie honoris causa eo iure censeri et esse co optimos sunt creati ali edicimus et pronunciamus tibique omnibus honoribus cum laura coniunctis fruendi et utendi facultatem facimus. Capeiam collate tibi dignitatis ornamenta et quid illa instituto maiorum portendat intellegge. Gesta sic togam anc ut norint omnes te in doctorum collegium allectum esse. Sit tibi liberalis pilleus hic, velluti laureum ornamentum, quod donabantur post certamen victores. Cum vero te, de dignitate adepta in totius academici coetus, nomina gratulebur, testetur tibi hic nostram plexus.
Your Excellency, President of the Republic, my brother and companion, Archbishop of Malta, Honorable Minister for Education, Chancellor, Rector, members of the Academic Board, distinguished guests. It is truly an honor for me to be here in this evening to be bestowed with this doctorate honoris causa. I come before you this evening as a bishop of the Catholic Church, as a man of faith and theology, but above all as a member of the human race, a race that perhaps above all, more than any other question, is intrigued by the question of truth. It is to this question that I wish to dedicate my thoughts this evening. What is truth? This is the question in the hearts of those engaged in academia and beyond. What is truth? It is the quaestio communis that inhabits the heart of every man and woman. What is truth? This is not only our question. It is a question that in 1930, almost 100 years ago, Heidegger, possibly the most important 20th century philosopher, asked and tried to answer in his lecture on the essence of truth. I find his take on the question of truth to be inspiring for theologians like myself, for philosophers, and all those working in the academia. In his lecture, Heidegger lays out clearly the way how the notion of truth is to be understood. This is something that he had already mentioned in earlier works: being and time, basic problems of phenomenology. But it is a question that now attains an unprecedented clarity. Heidegger goes beyond a propositional understanding of truth, or an understanding of truth as a correspondence between the mind of the knowing subject and the object. Rather, he goes back to the Greek word for truth, aletheia, which literally means unconcealed, and argues that truth is essentially aletheia, a disclosure or revelation. In fact, he notes, and I quote, "If we translate aletheia as unconcealment rather than truth, this translation is not merely more literal. It contains the directive to rethink the ordinary concept of truth in the sense of the correctness of statements, and to think it back to that still uncomprehended disclosedness and disclosure of beings." Clearly, Heidegger is distancing himself from understanding of truth as a pure activity of the human subject. Truth is not dependent on the categories of the knowing subject. Truth is not dependent on the categories of the knowing subject, but becomes an event of disclosure. In fact, he insists that, and I quote, "Truth is not a feature of correct propositions that are asserted of an object by a human subject." Undoubtedly, Heidegger had in mind the centrality accorded to the ego in the philosophies of Descartes and Kant when he was making such a critique. However, one could also add the commonly accepted understanding of truth in our contemporary society, where truth is considered to depend exclusively on the ideas, opinions, the beliefs of the knowing subjects. Heidegger is not arguing in favor of an objective truth. He is not attempting to reify truth, to make truth a something. He understands truth as a movement, a process, an event, in which the knowing subject takes the backseat and lets this event of disclosure take place, despite the human being's preconceived ideas. Indeed, truth demands an attitude of withdrawal on the part of the knowing subject, a certain Gelassenheit, letting be, a term that Heidegger borrows from the long tradition of German Christian spirituality. This attitude of letting be accepts that truth is never something that can be fully grasped, fully fathomed. On the contrary, truth as disclosure always includes a latent hiddenness, a latent concealment, mystery. Indeed, truth, in Heidegger's thought form, is a process not only of disclosure, but also of concealment. It implies a coming out of the original mystery and a return into the mystery. I'm not suggesting that we should identify truth with Heidegger's argument to core. I'm simply saying that Heidegger's understanding of truth provides us with food for thought. It invites us to make a methodological paradigm shift in our work as academics, theologians, researchers, students. We are not simply knowing subjects that master truth through experiments and argumentations. We are also passive subjects to whom truth reveals itself. And this demands a healthy dose of humility. Heidegger was fundamentally interested in the category of being, ens. And through his theory of truth, he wished to argue that being reveals and hides itself. But if, as the scholastics used to argue, and here I think Heidegger would probably disagree, ens et unum convertuntur, that is, the transcendentals are convertible, then it is not only being that reveals itself, but also the good and the beautiful, bonum, pulchrum. Understood in this light, our mission as academics takes a completely different meaning. It becomes an exercise in letting being, goodness, unity, beauty reveal themselves in and through our work. We could here apply to this St. Paul's phrase, fides ex auditu. Faith comes from listening, and say, philosophia ex auditu, where philosophia stands for all our different areas of research. Indeed, whatever we study, whatever we research, it is always a listening to the true, the good, the beautiful, that reveal themselves in and through our work. Heidegger's language about truth is not so distant from the way how Christian faith understands divine truth, as the simultaneous revelation and velation of God in his Logos. And indeed, some contemporary philosophers like Jean-Luc Marion have developed a philosophy of divine revelation in the wake of Heidegger's understanding of truth. Even if Heidegger would probably not find himself in agreement, I think that his understanding of truth does in fact leave the door open for a possible revelation of the divine. Indeed, in this event of revelation and velation that Heidegger calls aletheia, it is not only the transcendentals that reveal themselves, the one, the true, the good, the beautiful, but also the ultimate transcendent, the divine. We might not agree on this. We might not all agree that there is a divine logos that is himself aletheia. But if we were all to agree that we are at the service of truth as aletheia, then we would all acknowledge that we are not the protagonists of what we do. Our mission as lecturers, researchers, students cannot be boiled down to the impact we make, to the number of times we are cited, to the number of articles we publish, but is essentially a service to the truth. We are all listeners of the truth, which reveals and hides itself in and through our work. This is the paradigm we should adopt, and Heidegger has already shown us the way. Thank you very much.
The university cordially invites all distinguished guests to a vin d'honneur at the Valletta campus. Please rise for the national anthem.